The markets are just continuing their acceleration. We've seen a lot of studies and a lot of research on 401k balances, and on the whole, obviously, as expected, balances are moving up. But however, there's been a lot of discussion around diversity and inclusion and making sure that everybody is benefiting from this great rise in equity prices. Let's talk about what's going on in the space, in the retirement space, with respect to diversity and inclusion.
Well, it's certainly been a significant topic of conversation in the last year, and a lot of companies have been doing their own research on their own employee bases and evaluating what types of equity inclusion issues they may have today and what opportunities they may have for improvement. Certainly acknowledge there's a number of statistics out there that would suggest, people of color are less retirement ready, and that people of color have less participation in terms of things like equity ownership. So I think to your point, statistics would certainly suggest that, there is a racial bias or other, diversity and inclusion issues with respect to retirement savings and investments.
And what are the big factors when an organization is looking at diversity and inclusion to try to make sure that everybody's participating? What are the big factors that should be considered? Is that a design issue, education issue? Give us some perspective there.
So it's an interesting question, because I think when a lot of companies, those that have looked at their own statistics, they're not necessarily seeing the diversity inclusion type statistics broadly play out within their own populations. And I think we've had some clients kind of scratch their heads at that. And the first thing that's most important to keep in mind when broad statistics are being computed and you're seeing those stats that suggest people of color are less retirement ready, the biggest driver of that difference is access to a workplace retirement savings plan. And there are a significant percentage of employees in this country that don't have access to that. Those skew towards lower wage workers, more hourly paid workers, and people of color tend to be more represented in those positions. So that's a lot of what's driving the national headlines. Within any individual workplace, that's not necessarily the case. Most workplaces offer broad access to their retirement savings plans. Perhaps they have some exclusions. And the trends there tend to be a little bit more based on the makeup of the employee population. There are absolutely some important plan design features that can and have helped equalize, if you will, some of the retirement readiness outcomes. Automatic enrollment is certainly a race-blind process. Automatic increase, matching contributions being allocated as a percentage of pay means that pay is a much greater determinant of the benefit being earned by a participant than other personal characteristics and factors.
And when you talk about access to plans, is it a function of that maybe people of color don't have as much access because they aren't employed by large employers, or because they work for smaller employers, or that they're just more unemployed in that space?
All of the above are certainly factors that contribute to a lot of those statistics. So, the representation of people of color in different roles and industries certainly skews towards all those different types of roles that you mentioned, and that certainly contributes to that broad retirement readiness and financial wellness, situation.
Yeah, it certainly, I think we've learned through our research that it certainly is important to start early. So getting
Mhm.
people into plans early and getting them auto enrolled and auto escalated definitely will improve or significantly improve their chances of having a good retirement outcome in the end. But like you said, getting the access is important. What things perhaps legislatively might we see to address that?
There is continuing legislative momentum in order to help expand access. Things like expanding some of the tax credits for small businesses in order to sponsor plans. There's a proposal for a new tax credit for employers to actually make contributions to plans. We see a lot of small businesses, if they're going to offer a plan, they're not going to offer a company contribution. So an opportunity for individuals to save, but certainly, the ability to really grow an account balance can be supported and juiced by employer contributions. So those types of initiatives can help expand some of the access.
I think that there are tax benefits available to a small business who start plans. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, there's tax credits available for starting plans. There's extra tax credits for using automatic enrollment. The government has certainly recognized the benefits and power of those features.
And maybe for those listening, perhaps who are thinking like, gee, I would love to have a plan, but I'm not sure what to do next, or who could help me, or what the process is like. Maybe give a few points to consider there.
Yeah, so in the decision to sponsor a plan has a couple of components to it. Cost is certainly one factor. Administrative support, having the resources to run the plan ongoing, is another consideration. Having someone who's able to engage with the payroll, take deductions from employee pay, send those over to record keeper and custodian. So that's a significant consideration. There are a number of providers that have really sprung up out there that are relatively lower cost, intended to be more, I'll say, prepackaged or in the box type solutions for smaller businesses that are just looking to put a plan in place at a very low cost.
And while it's important to consider all that stuff, it's just as important or more important to at least get started. So if you need to get started, reach out to some of these smaller companies or some of these larger companies that offer these programs, like a Fidelity, a Vanguard, a Principal, somebody who is in this space, or contact your advisor. They can always help you get these plans set up. So any final comments on diversity or inclusion that you want to make here?
I don't want to undervalue the importance of education. There's certainly an ability to get folks into plans through auto features, getting them on the right track for saving and investing. But education is important as well. And that's another area I think some of our clients are finding. It's not necessarily just for people of color, but there's been a number of studies that have found that people of color generally do have less of an understanding of how retirement plans work, how financial markets work. There's generally less generational wealth among people of color. They may not have the family experience of a parent to help them understand the benefits of their workplace savings plan if they're a younger employee and getting started. And those types of initiatives on the education side can really enhance and support all employees, but especially people of color.
That's great. Well, appreciate the update on the in this area, and we'll be back with more information. If you have any questions or want to talk with us about how we can help you with your programs and get more diversity and inclusion in your programs, just give us a call.